Hello and welcome to Listen to This, a new podcast discussing just general themes about music. My name's Alex.
And I'm Dani.
And we aren't inherently incredibly knowledgeable on music. We aren't born producers. We aren't actual scholars or critics, but we have both been listening to music of wide varieties, and we just wanted a platform with which to speak on these things, and maybe people would enjoy listening. We thought we'd give it a shot.
Oh, man.
We do tend to, at some point hanging out, start discussing music, leading friends of many different names to just kind of sit there and be like, I'm technically here, but I'm not part of this conversation, because we just tend to go off the rails.
Yeah, that's actually kind of how this whole idea started, though, is because we had our movie group together, and we were driving back, and I remember you and I just went on this really long tangent about something. I can't remember. Oh, it was this weird, like, poppy song you had playing, and I remember looking at you and being like, what is this? And then we started on this really long tangent, and our friend Mallory, who was in the back, was like, what? And I remember just being like, oh my god, we could, like, so start a podcast for this, and that just kind of, like, started the seed that eventually grew into this, so hopefully...
And you had made the comment how we were both kind of like, yeah, it'd be great to be like a music journalist or like someone who gets paid to go on tour. Then at one point I was like, you know what, I'd just be happy with a music podcast. And then remembering a prior conversation, you definitely just took that idea and ran with it.
Oh yeah, because I was like, could we actually? And then I remember just kind of like sitting and like talking to my mom, which ends up happening a lot. And I don't know what we were talking about, but I just kind of started jotting ideas down, and I was just like, oh, like, if I can get, like, more than 3, maybe I'll take it seriously. And by the end, like, I had a good full page worth, and I was like, oh, we could do this.
That
so I remember...
mostly bullet points, yeah.
Yeah, so I remember texting you and being like, hey, remember that podcast thing that we were joking about? You want to do it?
So we figured we'd give it a shot.
Yeah, so sorry for a little bit rusty on this, because... we definitely have not done this before, but we're going to do our best.
There's going to be a learning curve.
Oh, yeah. We're going to get better, guys, I promise.
Now, it is already, by the time this comes out, well into 2020, but we thought a good, safe basis from which we could jump off of would be discussing a lot of highlights of 2019, which, actually, prior to doing this, I was even saying that, for me personally, was a bit of a comparative lull year, because 2018 was a year where I discovered so many artists and so many different genres that I got into, and different albums came out and stuff. That 2019 was still a year of discovering a lot of new things, but it was more discovering single songs from an artist and maybe going a little bit with it. But there weren't many whole albums, and there weren't many new frontiers explored for me, so to speak.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like it was a good growth year for a lot of the bands that I listened to. Like, Bring Me the Horizon came out with, like, Ammo, and then they came out with, like, this really, like, trancey EP, which was so bizarre, but for some reason so funny to listen to. Paris came out and grew a little bit more in their sound, so it was definitely a year of a lot of different change for a lot of the people I previously started listening to. So I think that was, like, probably the most interesting part of it, because I didn't really find new songs, but I definitely found, like, new reasons to like the bands I already listened to. So that was kind of a nice little like cherry on top.
That mindset of getting more into artists that you already liked, there were a handful of examples for me like that. The only big one that comes into mind was Dermot Kennedy. His album Without Fear, his debut LP, came out in, I believe, September. Maybe it was early October. And that was a guy who I started following the year prior in 2018. That's when I discovered him, and actually just seeing him grow throughout the year that I listened to him, and finally come out with his album and tour around. I actually had tickets to go see him in Chicago, and I ended up having to miss the concert. But it's definitely a regret of mine that I didn't get to see him live, because it was his first time in Chicago, I believe, and it would have been nice to see him there while he was supporting his newly released album that I had just gotten into. The only other artist that I could say I got more into was Nothing Nowhere. but that's sad boy music.
That's sad. It is though. Like, what was song? Let Down.
Let Down, you like
that is one of my favorite songs, but yeah, it just puts you in a mood, and then for like the rest of the car ride, you just want to listen to like more sad boy like music, or like I end up turning on the Fray, and then you really get in your feelings, and then you're just like, I'm here, guys. I'm doing great.
Well, that's pretty understandable for us because we definitely grew up with the stereotypically emo music.
Yeah.
And we definitely have both since branched out. We have not run away from that genre, but we have branched out into other things.
We kept it in our back pocket.
Like, a genre I was getting more into this year was more of a hip-hop vibe, kind of the more heavily produced hip-hop stuff. Like, another great album from this year was Everybody's Everything by Lil Peep. Obviously, he passed away years ago, so a lot of these albums are being released posthumously. But with his documentary of the same name that was released, they released this album, and it had, I believe, like 6 new tracks and a few like original recordings and differently done other songs. And a lot of the new songs on there, the previously unreleased ones, they were very well done.
See, that's my thing too. I think I mentioned it before in a different conversation we were having, where 2019 was like the year of like SoundCloud rappers. Like, quite honestly, that's when I started noticing a lot more of them were getting on the radio, and a lot more of them were starting to get really big followings. Like, and I actually got into Lil Peep now. It took me so long. Like, I think it was after he passed away that I started actually listening to his songs.
For me, it was 2018 I started listening to him.
Yeah.
2019, I don't remember.
It's honestly been like 5 months ago that I started listening to him, and I'm slowly picking up songs, but like, that's a...
You can tell that she's still newly getting into him because she said Little Peep.
Little Peep.
Little
Okay,
Peep.
excuse me.
All right. Well, he's an example of SoundCloud rappers that got big. And then you have I can't even think of the guy's name right now, which is a bit embarrassing. But they had that song Valentino. He was a SoundCloud rapper.
Oh yeah.
I don't want no Valentine. I just want Valentino. But a lot of that, the catalyst for all that, like we were saying, was Lil Nas X's Old Town Road coming out. And that seemed to like validate the idea of a SoundCloud rapper. It is still in a lot of spheres the butt of jokes, being cool, haha, yeah, I'm a rapper, check out my SoundCloud. But nowadays, that actually is a viable business strategy. It's posting a comment like that or sending a text like that is the equivalent of standing in the corner and saying, hey, here's my album, let's give it a listen.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
Everybody will walk by. Which, in some cases, that's what you have to do to get out there.
Yeah, and it's working for some people, obviously, and especially like Lil Nas, because I think I said it before, where I'm like, you know, it took me so long to get into that like song, and I think it was because it was so popular so quick, and I would hear it so often that I never really tuned into it. And then finally, when it was just kind of like on the decline, just a little bit on the radio, I finally listened to it, and I was like, this actually isn't that bad. Like, I don't know why it took me so long, but I started listening to it, and it's like a really, actually, I mean, it's not something I'd sit down, like, on a chill time and, like, you know what I really want to listen to?
Get a blanket, a nice cup of hot cocoa, and blast that Old Town Road.
Oh, man. Yeah, that probably would not happen. But, you know, what do we call it? It's the Mr. Brightside of millennials.
Of the modern generation.
Of the modern generation, yeah. Where it just, everybody knows it now.
You hear that, though, those first two echoey, hollow strums, chords being strummed, and suddenly everyone's like, oh.
Yeah, everyone's like on their feet going, I love this song, and you're just like,
and
what's
even the people
on?
who are like, this song again, they're still gonna know some of the lyrics.
Yeah, sometimes they're still singing along, and it's just because it's so catchy, you can't help it. Like, it kind of just being like...
It was a very good hybrid of hip-hop and country. Like, lyrically, it's taken the stereotypes of both genres and just saying, here we go.
Here we go.
And then obviously, actually having a country artist like Billy Ray Cyrus being featured in the remix, which was the version that really got big. That definitely helped cement it. Like made it seem like this is a real song. A real artist is getting into it. He actually saw something in this and wanted to be.
He played it at, I want to say, the Grammys, and it was like on this rotating stage. And I think that's what really hit me that I was actually getting into it, is because it was such a fun song to watch him perform. Like, he was having a ball. Yeah. Like, the crowd was having a ball. People on stage are having fun, and I was just like, okay, like, I see the appeal to it now. Like, it's just a fun song. And
like, what? Lil Nas X is 18, isn't he?
I think
18,
so.
19, something like that. So, like, he made a song that he would be okay with partying to. And I get behind that. Like, even I understand that some people don't like it, and there are definitely songs that fit in this category that I don't like, but ultimately, if an artist is having fun making their song or enjoying the process, maybe it's not a haha happy song like Anything Nothing Nowhere does, but even as long as they are enjoying themselves in the process, I think ultimately it will create a good song objectively, even if it isn't a subjectively good song.
Agreed. Speaking on that note, subjectively good songs. So, should we get into the our 2019 favorites that we've been listening to, or our decade favorites?
Yeah.
Oh,
you want to take it away, or do you want me to?
Oh man, I feel like this is not gonna be that surprising for a lot of people that know me. I'm gonna start like listing off my favorites, and they're gonna be like, "Oh my god, why?"
Now she's talking about it with an actual like microphone in front of her.
Yeah. Look at me, guys. I've grown. Yeah, no, but I'd have to say probably one of my favorite bands that I've recently gotten into that I did find... I technically found them in 2018, but I really got into them in 2019 was Palais Royale, because I accidentally saw them at Warped Tour. And I remember... And it was a really stupid thing, but like they all dress up kind of different. So, like, the drummer kind of looks like a pirate. The
lead singer is shirtless, yeah.
And the guitarist is dressed in a full, like, tweed suit. And, like, when I saw them at Warped Tour, it was hot out. Like, I was dying. And this dude's just in this suit. So I remember thinking, like, oh, my God, this is so extra. And then all of a sudden, like, I was glued to this crowd for, like, the entire set. And I was like, that was really good. Like, so I immediately found them.
That's one hell of a happy accident.
Yeah, I lucked out there, but so I'd have to say that was probably one of my favorite band finds of like 2018/19, because I then went and saw them again in 2019, and they were really good. They're always a fun band to see live because they just are having a ball on stage, like every time. And their music videos are also super creepy, which I appreciate. But yeah, so I'd have to say Palais Royale was probably a good find. I got really into Youngblood for a hot minute. He came out with 11 Minutes with Halsey and then Tongue Tied with Marshmello, like right at the end of 2019. And both of them are really good collaboration songs, so then I started kind of listening to his stuff. And I don't know, it's another one where I'm like, but also too, they're just so catchy. I just can't help but like be like, you know what sounds really good right now? Like California.
There is only one Youngblood song in my music library. Youngblood is only in one song in my music library, and that's I Think I'm Okay. The collaboration with him, MGK, and Travis Barker.
That's my
that song
favorite.
Is incredible, except for Youngblood's parts.
Really?
I read online that in an interview, Machine Gun Kelly was talking about, I know Travis and I were working on this song, and we invited Youngblood in, and he came to the studio, and he made his whole part in 10 minutes, and it was incredible, and I'm like, I can definitely tell he only made this in 10 minutes, because it felt like there was no effort put into his lines. Like, Machine Gun Kelly's lines, I don't care where you fall into the whole feud with Eminem. I like both of them as artists, and
Same.
honestly, their feud got us a bunch of good songs, like diss tracks back and forth. So I'm like, all right, yeah, keep hating each other, guys.
Keep going.
And I'm like, Machine Gun Kelly's his lines are like really well done comparatively, and then Youngblood says the same lines a couple times. I think if I had to guess his diverse word count, he maybe has like 30 different words in the whole song,
Probably.
but he keeps repeating the same lines. And then the music video made me even less interested in trying to find out more about this guy, because he seemed very show-offy. Like, you have the big names of Travis Barker, Machine Gun Kelly, then some kid is decked out in all this emo makeup and actively singing into the camera and stuff. And it's like, all right, kid, calm down.
If you see, he was from the UK, and so they're like, I don't want to say grunge, because that just doesn't quite fit them, but they're like alternative grunge almost. So that's kind of what a lot of their stuff fits in, where they kind of they take hip hop notes and kind of change it around and make it more alternative. So it's like that kind of blending. But yeah, I don't know. He was always interesting for me to watch, and especially with getting into 11 Minutes, because that song is another good song where they were able to fit in a really heartbreaking storyline. Yeah. And even though, like, Halsey doesn't have too many parts in it, like, her vocals matched with his was super cool. Okay. And then kind of seeing how they all interact in this, like, music video, I was just like, okay, like, I could get behind this a little bit. And I think that's why I still stayed interested in him.
Is 11 Minutes a Youngblood song featuring Halsey? Or is it a Halsey song featuring Youngblood?
It's Youngblood featuring Halsey.
Okay.
But it was a really good...
Are you a fan of Halsey, by the way?
Oh, maybe. I think a little bit.
Just a little bit.
Just a little bit, yeah. You guys are definitely going to notice. I'm going to mention a lot of Halsey. I don't know. She's my queen. But anyway, moving on.
A band that I wouldn't say I'm like really, really into, but a band that I really took notice of in 2019 was Judah and the Lion.
Oh, yeah.
Because like obviously they were known, and for a lot of people they're probably forever going to be known for Take It All Back.
Yeah.
Which I think is incredibly catchy. Like if you go to like the YouTube comment section of one of their songs, it is just people tearing that song apart, talking about how it's one of the worst things ever, and I'm like, yeah, take it all back. Yeah, Sound of the Mando. Okay, great. But their album Pep Talks came out, which is... It isn't inherently an amazing album. There are a few amazing songs in it, but the album itself is... It's just good. It's like, yeah, this is a good album. And they are good in the same way that Post Malone's new album from last year was good, in that it's really good at making earworms like into your head and are catchy. Mm-hmm. They're not inherently amazing songs. Like lyrically, they're like okay, and production wise, you're like okay, but your head's always gonna bob along when they're playing and stuff.
Oh yeah, they'd definitely be someone I want to see live because I know they came from Nashville. They came from they came from either they were found or they signed or they did something in Nashville. So that's kind of where they were like born, and like I knew it from Take It All Back, and then they came out with the 2.0. So that's kind of why it has that kind of country twang to it almost. Is because I think. Coming from Nashville, everyone kind of adopts that sort of style, whether it's like the main part of the melody or even if it's just kind of like a backdrop to it. So I feel like that's a really good way that they were kind of able to create their sound is because of where they came from.
And their sound is very unique, which I mean that's and they kind of embraced that, like the fact that their first major album was folk hop and roll.
Yeah.
Like that's folk, hip hop, and rock and roll all together. And the hip hop I think is maybe just exclusively with their drum beats and stuff.
Yeah.
Like that. I think that's where that's coming in. But otherwise, I feel that. Now, Pep Talks isn't quite like folk hop and roll. I would definitely just consider it alternative rock or indie rock if you want to call it that.
What album is what is the song? Something with Mars. It's from that, from them. It's
got to be folk hop and roll then, because it's not Pep Talks.
Yeah, it's got to be, because that one was it kind of came out, I think, it must have been in between albums, and Going to Mars, that's what it's called. That one's a really interesting one, because it still kind of has that, like, folky tone to it, but it's a little slower, and it's not so, like, in your face, but it's such a good earworm song.
In that same sense, by way of like energetic earworms, and I can really only exclusively talk about Pep Talks because I didn't listen to folk hop and roll all that much. I listened to Take It All Back 2.0, and that was really it. But of Pep Talks, like they have the big one, the big single of their more upbeat songs, probably Why Did You Run? But then they also have songs like 7,000 Times and Sports, which are both very earwormy and just kind of like catchy things or whatever. Yeah. And then they actually, the song that probably embraces that whole Nashville background the most is their slow, very sad ballad featuring Casey Musgraves of Pictures.
Ooh, yes.
Like that song, and it still has the banjo song, or maybe it's a mandolin. I'm pretty sure it's a banjo though, in the background, despite being a very heartbreaking song. Like that song's thematically very sad, which makes it an outlier in the album because the rest of it's just kind of like.
Yeah, they're kind of an inspiring group almost, where a lot of it's just either like really homey or like very like energetic.
I do feel like we would be remiss if we didn't talk about for 2019, changing gears here, Death Race for Love, which was the last Juice WRLD album, which came out in 2019.
I barely got into Juice WRLD.
Really?
Yeah, I only heard his songs either on accident or just kind of like in a shuffle that I had.
And like the big ones like Lucid Dreams.
Yeah, obviously that one. And then he did a feature on Without Me with Halsey.
Love that version. That's the best version of Without Me.
That was one of my favorites, and that's where he kind of came into like my kind of sight a little bit more, but still not quite the genre that I'd sit back and listen to.
And that was, like I was saying, that's the kind of genre that I got more into in 2019. And I will admit, Juice WRLD's a part of it, because to me, if there is a catchy hook, I will listen to a song. I might still pick it apart and be like, this song's not great. Which is actually...
But you can still appreciate it.
Exactly. Which is actually a lot of what Juice WRLD is to me. He can create good melodies, and I know he is himself is actually a good producer. He live streamed himself producing his song from the previous year, All Girls Are the Same. Like he did it, so I know he can produce music. He knows how to make a song. But lyrically, he is not a great songwriter. In one of his songs, Empty, the opening track of Death Race for Love, there was a line that he sang, and what I heard the line as was, I ain't suicide, only thing ensuing inside is suicide doors. And I'm like, oh, that was kind of heavy. That was well done. That was a good lyric. And I looked it up, and he was like, I ain't suicide, the only thing is suicide doors. And I'm like, okay, it's actually kind of lame, and I misheard it and made it cool. And looking into it more, he's one of those...
Are you sure you're not a SoundCloud rapper?
I'd love to be a SoundCloud rapper.
Oh, God.
If I had talent. But he's one of those guys who sticks to the same themes for all of his songs.
Yeah.
Which... I guess for some reason I'm bringing it back to Nothing Nowhere again. For him, music was a release. So it was a form of therapy for him to get all of his dark thoughts out, which I would never.
Which are very dark.
Right, and I would never say, don't do it. You're doing things wrong, so don't even bother with this. I'm like, hey man, you do you, and I will still dance to these songs. But I'm like, there are definitely better lyricists I'd go to. That being said, rest in peace, Juice WRLD.
Yes, rest in peace. I feel like we lost a lot of people in like a short amount of time in 2019. It was either like right in the beginning.
Juice WRLD died this year, but
yeah. But are you sure? I thought it was
January.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. But it was like Little Peep.
When was it last year? It was December, actually.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Oh, I'm an idiot.
Because I remember watching all this stuff where it's like the people we lost in 2019, and there was like a crazy amount all in like a row.
Yeah.
So it was like, when did XX Tanasi, however you say that really, the SoundCloud rapper that I think like really paved the way?
I think May, but I could be mistaken on that.
Yeah, because I think it had to have been like in 2019, because it was like all in a row, and I was like, it was kind of a crazy time.
He was actually a guy I never really got into.
Yeah, me neither.
The only thing I know about Temptation, whatever you want to call it, is a very shitty YouTube video mashup of his song to Vanessa Carlton's 1,000 Miles.
No!
It's the piano with his aggressive grunge rap lyrics.
Oh,
it is
God.
Amazing. I'll have to play it for you after this, because it is just a joke, but at the same time I also like it.
Oh,
I'm like,
man.
This is awful. Play it again.
Play it again. Do it again. I feel like his name is like the Benedict Cumberbatch of like SoundCloud names, because you can say it however many times you want and none of them can be right, but somehow everybody knows who you're talking about. Yeah, you'd be like XX Cicuniaciono, and they're like, oh yeah, I know that guy. And you're just like, okay, I guess I didn't butcher it that bad.
So I feel like I've been talking about the same two genres a lot, so I'm going to change pace here on my end. Another album that came out, and this is going to be a very brief mention. New Found Glory released their third From the Screen to Your Stereo album, which is their cover album from movie soundtracks, which was fine. Their big one was This Is Me from Greatest Showman and whatever. And a lot of their other covers were decent. They were pop punk covers of whatever. But at the very end of the album, they had a demo for an original song, and that song Puzzles is incredible, and it was just a topic I'd actually be cool with discussing in a future. It's something we had talked about before. As artists grow, their music grows, and I think that can be said a lot in that one song. Not necessarily by way of their sound, but lyrically. A lot of pop punk from the early to mid 2000s is kind of about heartbreak and how that one girl sucked, but man, I got my friends.
I hate my town.
Exactly, that kind of thing. Yeah, but this one, the theme of Puzzles is finding someone and realizing how good you are for each other and saying, let's just go for it. The hook, the opening of the refrain is, are we moving too fast? I really don't think so.
Aww,
and it's a very happy song. It's a happy, upbeat song you can dance around to, and it's about feeling so confident and so in love with this person that you're like,
yeah, let's do it.
It's only been 7 months, but I see a future with you, kind of thing. And I like that.
Definitely someone I got a little more into that kind of, I don't want to say changed a lot, but have you ever heard of Chelsea Cutler?
Only when I got your notes.
So my friend way back showed me Your Shirt, and I really got into that song for some reason. It was just a really cute song, but she's also kind of like...
Nothing Nowhere.
Yeah, Nothing Nowhere, where she's kind of like the female version of it, but just like a little less sad.
Okay.
Just a little less, because no one can quite get down to his level.
Oh my God, no.
Like, you just go straight down that dark hole. But she came out with, I don't want to say came out with, but Cold Showers, Someone Else, that's a really good song. Like, the beat in it is super... She just has a really interesting way of creating music, and it's something I've always kind of noticed about her. But in 2019, like, especially during the summer... I would crank that on like my little portable speaker that was like really shitty and just like go out and play it, like go out to the beach with it.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, it was a little bit different from everybody else because like everyone's playing like, you know,
Beach Time Summer XX Simpson.
And,
my
like,
favorite SoundCloud rapper,
yeah. Juice WRLD and all that stuff, and like other people would be playing like Ariana Grande and all that, and like here's me in this like low key kind of like uppity song with like really depressing sort of lyrics. You were wearing all black, weren't you? Surprisingly, no, not this time.
Just so you know, we're recording and she's wearing all black.
I have white in this.
The part that's white reveals the "Bring Me the Horizon" slogan on a Ouija board. So
I'm doing great, guys. Like this is not gonna change.
Chelsea, is it Chelsea or Chelsea?
I think it's Chelsea. That's how I read it anyway.
Okay. Is she also like the same genre as Nothing Nowhere, or is she...
She's a little more alternative.
Okay.
Like electronic alternative, if that makes sense.
All right, yeah,
it's not like EDM or anything, but it definitely has kind of like... You can definitely tell the production value in it is really good.
Okay.
I think she does it herself too, which is even cooler.
That's a nice touch. Yeah, I have learned... In recent years, I've become a sucker for that, because like... I swear to God, I am not a huge Nothing Nowhere fan, but for whatever reason, he's coming up a lot right now. He does all of his own production too, except for an album that was released in 2019, Bloodlust, which was a collaboration EP between him and Travis Barker.
Ooh, Travis Barker has had his hands in so many different projects lately. Like, I'm really impressed with him.
Years ago in high school, when some of my friends were obsessed with Blink-182, before even I got really into them, I was always a fan of their songs. Before I got really into them, they were discussing Blink as a band. They're like, yeah, Travis Barker is probably one of the best drummers of the modern day. And I'm like, oh yeah, well, I bet you go home and jerk off to his album photos and stuff. But thinking about it now, especially even how much I know, and I'm like, god damn, now I have to go clean up the magazines and shit. Like he is incredibly well done, especially when. How many drummers can say that they've had a solo album? Oh, okay. Phil Collins, yes, thank you. But how many non-vocal drummer can have an entire album that are just based on collabs and stuff and have it be an incredibly good one too? And I'm like that. And then yeah, now Travis Barker's a great drummer, and I could gush about that for a while too.
Oh yeah.
Another group I want to give an honorable mention to is the band Safety Suit. If you know them at all. They had a big song into.
I shook my head just so everybody knows.
All right, this is an audio-based thing. We should probably clarify that. They had a semi-big song. They're just an alternative rock group, or arguably in some cases even pop rock. They had a song in 2008 or so, maybe 2007, called "Someone Like You." If I were strong enough, if I were wrong enough to be someone like you, would you have let me come to be with you?
Oh, that does actually kind of sound familiar. I don't know where. Unless I heard it from you.
Maybe it was on the car or something.
Probably.
But in 2019, or I think maybe it was 2018, the band had moved to LA to kind of, for networking purposes, because they had their one big album in that, like I said, 2007, 2008, something like that. Then they kind of went under the radar. Like there are other songs and there are other albums that I like, but none of them got radio play, really. But this year, and I assume it was because of their move to LA, they kind of changed up their formula for how they want to do music. Mm-hmm. As opposed to finding producers and making a whole album and releasing it. They've kind of just been releasing singles. They make a song of a relatively, for them, unique sound and just release as a single and see how it does, which gave us songs like Feels, and then which is a very mellow, borderline acoustic song. And then they had a song, Victory, which was very anthemic and admittedly more in their genre kind of thing, but still a different sound from what they were doing. And I thought that was interesting, how the band was much more comfortable not doing a big production release, just doing singles and seeing how that goes. I thought it was a nice way to change things up and seeing how they can change as a band.
Yeah. I was going to say, too, an honorable mention. This one's more for, like, the decade, I guess, or, like, within the decade. We're probably, and you're going to spit that out, but it would probably be Chainsmokers. And I say that only because I feel like between 2010 and then now, they've really had their big rise and their kind of fall. And don't yell at me for saying that. Like, I say that only because I think it was right after 5 Seconds of Summer, their collaboration with, like, Who Do You Love and all that, and then they went on tour with them. It seemed like they just kind of fell off the face of the earth a bit. Like, a lot of the stuff that they were putting out between Memories and 5 Seconds of Summer and a little bit after, like, I didn't hear anything about it. It was just, like, whatever I could find of it, it just was not that good.
Was the song something just like this in that between time you were talking about?
That is in the Memories Do Not Open album.
Oh, okay.
So that one...
That's the most recent thing I know about.
Yeah. I liked that album. Like, it was a super nostalgic album, and, like, a lot of critics, like, ripped it apart, and they're like, you know,
really?
this is... Yeah, people did not like it, or at least the... like, music people didn't really like it too much, but, like, they've always kind of just been, like, party boys just making party music most of the time. So I think switching it up and having, like, a really nostalgic, sort of honest album kind of, like, threw people for a loop for a bit.
Okay. For them, though, when you have a hit as big as Closer, it's going to be hard to try matching that. So I'm not surprised that right now they probably are in a bit of a downswing, but I feel like they have the potential to come back up again.
Yeah, that song was my college song. Like, God, I listened to that so much that, like, my friends started making fun of me for it. Like, every time it came on, especially at work, when we used to work at Sandy, like, everyone would be like, oh, I hate that song, it plays nonstop. Every time I was in that darn cafeteria, it would never play. I was so
I would hear
mad.
it so many times there.
Every time I clocked in, it's like they knew, and they were like, oh, don't play that song. I was so mad. I kept waiting for it. But also, too, they're a group that I think a lot of people kind of underestimate just a little bit, because they got really big. I can't remember when.
I was going to ask,
for Selfie. They got real big for Selfie, because it was but first, let me take a selfie. For some reason, everybody hated that song. But then they came out with Bouquet, and I think, like, another little EP, and it had a song on it called Kanye.
Kanye?
Yeah, and it's like, I want to be like Kanye. But if you watch the music video, it's a storyline with, you have the girls in the Selfie music video going, and they're in the mirror, and they're doing their face, like this one scene. And then they, like, grab their stuff and they start heading out. And this maid walks into the room and she starts cleaning and everything. And she starts, like, looking at all this nice stuff. And so she starts putting it on. And so she's kind of looking at herself in the mirror, and this group comes. And they're like, oh, come with us. And so she, like, goes on this, like, crazy adventure. And then by the end of it, she realizes, like, that's not really the life she wants to be a part of. So she, like, she walks home. And, like, you see her put her, like, outfit out and everything like that. And she goes and checks on her kid in her bed. And she just gets, like, this really happy grin. I'm like, that was a little more sentimental than I was expecting for this group.
That sounds so sweet. Holy cow.
It was the coolest music video.
That's
like,
such a sweet
You
song.
have all this glitz and glamour and everything happening. You know, this is me interrupting myself, but they have a really good, like, they do a really good job with their music videos. Roses, that came out right after. I could literally watch that music video nonstop for like 24 hours, and I'd still be enthralled by it. It's just such an interesting story. And, like, same with Closer. Like, you could hate the song. You could, like, listen to it a lot. You could not. But the music video is really good. I don't know. They kind of hit that knack.
I know I've seen the music video for Closer, but that would definitely be the only one. The earliest song, no, I've heard of the song Selfie and Roses, but haven't actually listened to those.
Really?
The earliest song by them that I know is Don't Let Me Down.
Oh, yeah.
To me, that's what the Chainsmokers, the DJs for Don't Let Me Down. Yeah, I know them. Then the Closer came out, and I'm like, oh, okay, so they actually sing in their songs, too.
Yeah. I honestly, I think of Don't Let Me Down for my friend and I and like a bunch of our other friends were like piled into his like old school, like I think it's like Subaru or it's a tiny, it's a tiny little red car. He put the song on and he was making fun of me because I'm blasting it like hanging out of this car in the middle of downtown Madison. Like, to clarify, I was sober. But like, it was just a really good mood boosting song for it being the middle of summer in the middle of like the Madison campus with like no plan, no agenda. Like that was a fun time, and so that's what
Very
I kind
free
of
time for
yeah.
you.
But I think that's why I associate with Chainsmokers a lot more into like summer things and a lot more nostalgic things.
The original version of that song, or the originally produced version, isn't even the best version. The Illenium remix is a much better version.
Illenium always does the best.
Illenium is such a good DJ. So much better. That guy figures out a way to like work even more comparatively orchestral instrumentation into his remixes and his songs.
You're gonna laugh at me, but Illenium did a really good Without Me remix.
Did he?
Like, so good. That's also by Halsey. If no one knew quite what Without Me I was talking about.
You see, I thought it was
Halsey
the Eminem version. I don't know.
See, that's why I have to clarify here, so people know.
No, I do think the Juice WRLD version of that's good. They will stay, even for at this point, probably nostalgic reasons. That song came out a year ago. I was already nostalgic for me.
Yeah, are you doing good, dude?
I'm dying over here.
Oh man, you want to talk about nostalgia? So, 2019, Spotify does the whole like wrap up recap thing, and so it tells you like your top artists, your top songs, top genre, and then it breaks everything down for you. So I got my whole like breakdown thing and I posted it to my Facebook because that's what you do. My friends continuously made fun of me because one of my top songs, and I mean like top 2 songs, was Clarity by Zedd. I've been listening to that song for 7 years and I'm still not sick of it, dude. I don't know why. It's like a mix of nostalgia and like, I don't even know. It's just a good song.
Anytime Danny gets the aux cord in my car, I just know at some point everybody's hearing Clarity because it's going to be played at some point.
And it's either going to be the original or it could be like any of the many remixes I have. It's just a good song. I will go to my grave saying that is a good song. And it's a good music video too. Have you ever seen the music video?
After our talk where you talked about the music video, I went and looked it up and I'm like, I can get behind this. This is pretty rad.
It is so good. And with Foxes, because first off, Foxes is gorgeous.
She's very pretty.
And like
anyway. She's such an interesting singer. Clarity came out in 2012. That's right. The whole album did, didn't it?
Yeah.
Was that Zedd's first album?
I believe so, because I remember getting that album. It was actually a really good album, too. I think he put that together very well. I think Clarity, the song, was a highlight on that album for being kind of more of a poppy EDM one than the rest of his songs, because the rest of them were kind of like, they're a little bit softer. I don't want to say calmer, but that kind of works a little bit better with it because they weren't so high energy. They were kind of low groove songs.
Well, that was his first big song, right? Assuming this was his first album. That was
Clarity, Clarity was the first song from him that got put on the radio. Fun fact,
that's good.
When I first heard that song, I shut it off.
Clarity?
Yeah, when I first heard it.
The quintessential Danny song, you shut it off the first time you heard it?
First time I heard it, I was like, no, like this, I don't like this song. So I literally clicked off of it, and then I heard it one more time, and I was about to click off of it again, and I was like, no, click off as in back on radio, because we didn't have our smartphones to help us with our music, so I had to go back to my
2013?
It was an old school MP3 for the longest time.
Oh, okay.
But my car didn't have like the compatibility to hook it up to it.
Oh, okay.
So I went off CD. So
this is back
Fall
when
Out Boy.
dinosaurs roamed the earth. Okay.
I know. I listened to a lot of Fall Out Boy with Out From Under the Cork Tree.
That's a great album.
What else? Avril Lavigne. I had the one. What one was it? It was the album with Girlfriend on it. That's all I remember. Yeah, that's when I started getting into Lana Del Rey, and only because that year, I think it was around that time, they started announcing that Leonardo DiCaprio was going to be Gatsby in the Great Gatsby remake. So they start coming out with like the albums and this pretty much the accompanying part of that movie. And then it was like a year later, our school announced that our prom was going to be the Great Gatsby theme. So I got heavily into that album because I was just like trying to find inspiration for like all the decorations that we were going to do and stuff like that. Because that, I mean, a year prior, we just read that book. And so one of the songs that I found was Lana Del Rey, Young and Beautiful. Oh God, she's so good at being like hauntingly like beautiful. Like she's like really angsty if you like really listen to a lot of her songs. Like that's why I appreciate her so much. But like that song was so well put together, and especially with the version with the orchestra in the background, like you're just kind of like floored for a second because like her vocals and the music and like it's just so pleasing.
Every Lana Del Rey song I've heard, I've liked, but I could not name you one right now.
I know.
But like when I'm in the room and it's on, I'm like, oh, I like this. Who is this? Oh, it's Lana Del Rey. Oh, cool. But I've never actually gone and looked into her.
I'm kind of, I don't want to say in the same boat, but like at the same time, like, I don't want to say her music blends together for me, but it's just kind of like each one is a different chapter in the same song. So I could just sit there and listen to like the songs that I have saved from her. And I couldn't tell you where one ends and one begins because it's just, it's like a weird dream and you're just along for the ride. You're like, her voice is just so dreamy, you kind of forget.
That's a good way of describing it.
Yeah. Have that kind of like sad, emotion. Dreamy voice, yeah.
Early on, I was confused Lana Del Rey with Florence and the Machine.
Oh,
not because they're similar, just like they're I don't know. There's something about them. I was just like, wait, which one did Shake It Off? Kind of thing. Like,
oh, I love Florence and the Machine was who I got into in high school because don't laugh. The Vampire Diaries did a promo with Cosmic Love.
As you can tell, Dani was one of the coolest kids in her school, and she flaunts it at every chance she gets.
I don't even know how to begin to describe it because like she's another one who's really good with the dreamy vocals, but her power in her voice is ungodly. Like someone that I went to school with my freshman year, she told me that she got to see her live, so she decided she'd play for as long as possible before it's Cosmic Love, I think it was. And she goes, you know, she's bursting out these really high notes. She sounds so powerful. Her dress is like going all over because of the wind. And she goes, then you have lightning in the background.
That's rad.
Yeah, she goes, oh man, like she just looked like a straight up goddess. And
that's cool.
And it just fits her aesthetic so perfectly, like that pretty sort of chaos. And I'm just like, yeah, I'm for this. If I could see her live once, I would be happy.
She has to come to Summerfest or something. Okay. Other important things. The rise of another SoundCloud artist who is now a recognizably good artist, Billie Eilish, come out. And she started on SoundCloud with her brother.
Yeah, that's true. Because they were just like, oh yeah, we used to just make...
She'd make beats and she'd write lyrics for them. In any case, that's not important though. But other genres, I can't even think of it. I'm sure there have been great country albums. I mean, Casey Musgraves won Album of the Year, and she was country. Yeah,
and there's a lot more like female country singers kind of coming onto the scene. More so like Kelsey Ballerini, like countrifying Halsey's song Graveyard.
I was waiting for you to say Without Me.
Halsey also ended up pairing up with Lady Antebellum, but that's neither here nor there. It was also Over You and Graveyard. And it was really good. Like, it was good? Okay. It was super good. The song's been out for a hot minute for country, I'm pretty sure. Gabby Barrett.
I'm not familiar with that name.
Yeah, Casey Musgraves. Who else? I don't know, I'm always going to be a Luke Bryan fan.
With our girls, and they listen to mostly the guys sing. Like, not like, you know, a lot of them think, oh yeah, he fell hot or something like that. But they generally like
They just put on good party songs most of the time.
Didn't Eric Church's Chief come out in the past decade?
I think.
By the way, fun fact that I love pointing out to people, there are two famous artists named Eric Church. There's Eric Church, the country guy, and there's Enrique Iglesias, which translated to English is Eric Church.
Really?
Iglesias is church in Spanish, yeah. So they're both named that. Anyway, Chief came out in, my God, 2011 must have been an amazing year in music too, because Chief came out, I think that's probably my favorite country album.
And then too, he's not really like straight up country, nor is he like a very well known country artist, but Upchurch. My brother showed me him. He was actually got popular in like YouTube, kind of SoundCloudy based stuff. But he's like a mix of like hip hop and country. He's actually really good. He's coming to the rave, and I'm kind of excited for it.
But does he take his horse down to the Old Town Road?
I swear to God.
I'm saying, like, hardcore country fans, I'm aware, aren't a huge fan of them, but Florida Georgia Line.
Oh, I love them.
They made what a lot of people consider pop country, or maybe country pop or something like that. But I like them a lot, and they came in this decade.
They're probably one of the ones that
Cruise
made country. Yeah, they're the ones who kind of made country more
mainstream.
Yeah, almost to the point where like you'd hear it on like the pop side of radio. You wouldn't so much hear it on the country side. So that was kind of interesting, especially too when I think Nelly did a feature on Cruise or something like that. There's a version where there's a rapper on Cruise. I know that for a fact. I just can't remember which rapper.
Nelly, I mean, it is Nelly. You're right.
Yeah, see, I know my stuff. But yeah, and then they came out with Anything Goes. That's for Florida Georgia Line.
Oh, that is them. Yeah. For me, the best Florida Georgia Line song, and it's because of a personal memory I have with it, is Holy.
Oh, that is.
There was a night, so I'm a bartender, and there was a night when just me and like 5 or 6 people, it was like 1 a.m, just all kind of relaxing. A lot of them were industry people, so they were getting off work and coming out to have a drink kind of thing. And just all of us, like the 7 of us in the bar, just stopped talking. They stopped drinking, and we just sang the chorus to Holy. Like it was really nice, and it was just like it was a wholesome bonding moment that honestly all of them probably don't even remember. Not because they were drunk, because it was just singing along to the song in a bar. But for me, it was everything.
Music can make our communities and kind of bring us together. Like I think that's kind of the basis of our show. Maybe start and see a song or a group in a different way.
We definitely will have negative things to say, like we didn't like this song or this is kind of hokey or whatever. But ultimately, we just want an excuse to be happy and love music.
Exactly, and share that love with all of you guys. So
exactly. So we will see you guys next time. Hopefully, this episode wasn't too chaotic. It was.
I feel like it's very chaotic. That's just the energy we admit.
Yeah. Like we said, still kind of learning the ropes of how we want this whole thing to flow. Maybe at some point we'll come up with a format. Maybe we'll stay stream of conscious like this, with just bullet points to guide us as we ramble. But we'll see how it goes. But thank you for listening. If you actually made it to this point in the podcast, you're either related to us or going back to the archives and seeing where we started from. So, hello from the past.
Dude, I'm just imagining something being like, oh man, what?
But sincerely, thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time.
See ya!